Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. Punch that intro. Man, if that beat doesn't pump you up, I don't know what does. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. As you can see right there, that is not Mac the Giant fan. Mac is on a well-deserved vacation in parts unknown. Don't want you guys to bother him. He may pop in on the show, but we have a co-host, a friend, a four horseman joining me today, thanking him today for taking some time out of his busy day. Zion's and the people. Welcome, Zion, to the Real Deal NFC East Roundup.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. Absolutely, Mac. Hopefully you're enjoying your program. I'm enjoying your program, enjoying your vacation, and I'll fill in on the program for today. I'd like to say maybe I'm like a Dan Nalowski. I'm a fan of the program, coming in to fill in. But thank you for having me, Adam. Let's get it.
So, as you know, this is a Real Deal NFC East Roundup. So, I'm going to be the host today. I'm going to be guiding the show and hopefully navigating us to where we need to go. And so, we're going to start off. Normally, we start off with the order of games, but today we thought we'd throw a little curveball out there and start out with the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. A game that was at 4 o'clock window that everyone had a lot of anticipation for, a lot of excitement. Cowboys coming off that last second victory, the Bears coming off a dismantling from the Detroit Lions the week before. So, a lot to play for here. Zion, what were your thoughts on the Cowboys Bears?
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I didn't really watch the game fully because I was more concentrating on the Eagles versus Rams, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on in the program. But what I could see, what I was watching, and a couple of clips I could see, I could see a Cowboys defense that was just in dazed and confused. A Cowboys defense that really had Caleb Williams looking like an MVP candidate out there. Caleb Williams was doing whatever he wanted to do to them. And as far as the offense goes, you could see a little bit of struggles. I get it. CeeDee Lamb got hurt early in the game. But at the end of the day, you do have other weapons on offense. I was more shocked, if anything. I was more shocked in the Bears' performance. But being that this is the NFC East Roundup, what I can really focus on is the Cowboys and how pathetic they looked on defense. And Caleb and Ben Johnson, they did a really good job scheming for this team. And it's sad to say, but that's a team that we're going to talk about us later on in the show, but a team that we should have beat, that we couldn't beat. And when they go out there and they lose to a team like the Bears, arguably in my mind one of the bottom tiers of the NFL this season, they didn't look like that, right? The Bears didn't look the Bears didn't look like that. The Cowboys defense made the Bears look good. And I get it, Brian Shanahan's in his first year. I really don't blame that much on him. It's just we all knew the Cowboys defense was going to be bad, but when the Micah Parsons came out, do they miss him now? Right, when his trade came out, do they miss him now? So that's what I have to say. My takeaways from that game is we might be a bad football game, but at least we're not as bad as Cowboys defense, because that team is horrendous. But go ahead, Adam.
Well, I unfortunately got the pleasure of watching some of this Cowboys Bears game. As you know, I love to park my keister on the couch and just veg out. This Sunday is going to be great because they start football at 9 a.m. So that's always a good thing to have, breakfast and football. But we're talking about the Cowboys. What I thought was interesting, and we talk about this a lot, is stacking victories. You come off that emotional win, that hard fought win to a team that you should be beating. Like, let's be honest, the Bears looked awful in their two games. The one against the Commanders, I guess they looked okay. Was it the Commanders? The first one of the games they looked okay for the first half, and then just bottomed out, right? And then the next
The
game,
Vikings, this against the Vikings, they looked
yes,
good.
the Vikings, Monday Night Football, right? How can I forget?
Yes.
They scored, they moved the ball up and down the field, and then all of a sudden it just fell off. Then they played Detroit after they got dismantled by Green Bay, and got absolutely obliterated to the tune of 50-something points. Okay, so you thought, well, the Cowboys just scored 40. The Bears just gave up 50. Something's got to give. Well, it turns out that the Bears figured out knew what Eberflus was running. Remember, they ran that defense last year,
That's
so
right. That's
that's
a good point.
probably why Caleb Williams had the renaissance that he had, because Eberflus was coach last year, so he knew the concepts, he knew the leverages, and of course, when you're learning a new defense, no excuse for the Cowboys, they played horribly, but sometimes the pieces have got to gel and mesh together, right? And right now they're clueless in the back end, but offensively, I thought they would have a good game. And the Bears defense came to play, forcing turnovers, knocking guys out of the ball game, getting the interceptions in timely manners. Obviously, the ball bouncing off George Pickens' hands right into a Bears defender. That is exact, and it was a beautiful pass by Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott can only do so much. At some point, the team's got to help bail him out. When we talk about this is why we talk about it as a team game, right? Because even if your quarterback's playing phenomenal, if you let him down by dropping the football, then it looks bad on the quarterback, and they say, "Well, the quarterback stinks." Meanwhile, you drop pass after pass, interception after interception. Did he have his moments of bad? Yes. Obviously, when you're pressing and you're trying to make plays, you tend to make plays into mistakes, right? And into issues like that. So while I don't want to exonerate him for some of the things that he did wrong, I can't blame him on all the picks, right? You might look at the box score and he throws however many picks, and you're like, oh man, he had a bad game. Well, how about George Pickens literally gift wrapping an interception to a guy, right? A fumble happening with Trey Edwards. They looked like they were sleepwalking at the wheel, because I think what they were doing was they were feeling themselves. And what did I mean by that? Well, they beat the Giants, and they're looking at another team that's 0-2 or whatever their record was, and just gave up 52 points. They thought probably they were going to walk all over them. Well, they didn't. And again, the Bears knew it when they're playing that defense last year. You basically watch film of last year, give the little tidbits, and Caleb Williams, got to give him credit. He actually looked like a quarterback. I wouldn't say a franchise quarterback, but he looked good in this game. Let's see if he can carry that over the next week. But basically, my takeaways from this game were Dallas' defense is absolute trash. Their offense, if they don't score points, they'll be a bad team. And it just goes to show that it's a week-to-week league. And how bad do you have to be if you can't even beat the Cowboys and they get dismantled by a team like the Bears, who we all think was going to be bad? So maybe the Bears found something. We'll see. We'll find that out this week. But as for the Cowboys, got to do a lot of regrouping. I know they signed Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know if he got much burn in that game. I don't think he played that much, or if he did, he was absent in my mind. And I just got to put some things together. I don't know how they're going to work it out. Eberflus's defense is very difficult to run. And again, they tell you that a defense usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to master. Well, they got to figure it out quickly. Otherwise, their season's going to slip away. Thankfully, they have one win. But unfortunately, their next opponent is Green Bay, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you don't have any final thoughts on that, we can get into the Washington game.
I mean, my final thoughts is at least I can say I thought we had the worst offense and the worst defense in the division, the Giants. At least I can say our division is at least better than Cowboys defense. Our defense is at least better than Cowboys. So at least we have a win someplace when we can get.
They have a win in the win column. So that's basically where they, we can talk about having a good defense. They can talk about beating us and having a win. Right now, the Giants, as you know, who we'll get to, are riding the 0-3 bench right now. But getting into our next game, Washington against the Las Vegas Raiders, a game that we thought would be a little bit more evenly matched. However, last week I told a lot of people, Commanders should win. But before we get into my thoughts, again, I keep forgetting I'm the host. Zion, what are your thoughts on this game? Got any tidbits that you found?
Yeah, so basically, this is another game that I didn't really watch that much of. I looked over some highlights and I read about it a little bit for the show. I know that Jaden Daniels was out with a knee injury. Marcus Mariota started in his place. The game started off with Jeremy McNicholas, 60-yard rushing touchdown. There's a handful. Debo Samuel. The game started off with a Debo Samuel return for a 69-yard touchdown. But then what made me think of Jeremy McNicholas is just full domination from Washington's side, right? He has a 60-yard rushing touchdown. There's Jalen Lane returns a punt for a 90-yard touchdown. There's just so much things that's happening on all three phases, right? You have Marcus Mariota stepping in for Jaden Daniels, going for 206 yards, one passing touchdown. A Mariota that's known to make mistakes, mistake-free in this football game, right? You have a defense that's just playing good defense. I didn't watch the game, so I can't really speak on certain performances in the game, but I know that the Raiders did give up 5 sacks. They gave up over 400 yards on offense. You know what I'm saying? Now, moving on to who had a monster day on the Raiders, Trey Tucker had a monster day with 8 catches and 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. But unless you have him in fantasy, that means shit, right? The Raiders got stomped. Washington looks like a full-on team that, obviously they're not the cream of the crop, but they're getting up there, right? And the fact that they have a coach that seems to know what he's calling, they have an offensive coordinator in Chris Kingsbury that understands how to manipulate the defense. Overall, great performance by Washington, and obviously I said no turnovers. Marcus Mariota, he did have a fumble on the one, so that did count, but no interception, so that was good. Limited his mistakes. That's what I noticed. When you have a starter like Marcus Mariota, all you can hope for is just limit the mistakes, and that's what Marcus Mariota did. What's up, No Mets? Thank you so much for being here. But overall, I'm not gonna be up here and I'm not gonna act like I did watch the game fully. Those are just a little bit of highlights that stuck in my mind, right?
No
So
Mets.
when you stop in the run game and you're getting 5 sacks and you're forcing pressure to create negligent plays, that's how you play winning football. And what did the Commanders do? They went out there and they played winning football against a team that they were supposed to play winning football against.
Well, that is phenomenal. I can't disagree with you on many things. I will say this, we talked about this last week on the show. Marcus Mariota was brought in here to do exactly what he did last week, and that was steer the ship. Are you asking? Hopefully, the Jaden Daniels thing is not too bad, but right now you should ride the hot hand in Mariota as you go, right, and give as much time as you need to Jaden Daniels. Don't rush him back. A lot of people like to do that because of win now, but if he can win games and he can keep you afloat, which is what he can do. Remember, he was a first overall pick, or at least top. I think he was number 1. I think he was 1 and James was 2, or vice versa. Either way, top 5 pick in a draft.
He's definitely top 5, top 2, yeah.
Top 5 pick in the draft, understands what to do, is a valuable veteran, is a guy that can come in, run the offense. You don't need to change much. This is what we talk about when we talk about the backup position. And as you see in the NFL, the evolution of the backup quarterback is going to grow. You're going to see more guys get jobs and keep them in the older fashion because they're going to need them down the stretch. I remember in the mid 90s, I used to think about backup quarterbacks because I forget what quarterback got injured in the mid 90s, but their season was basically over. And they had nobody, and their defense was stacked, and their team was stacked. Everything was good to go, but they couldn't do anything because the quarterback was dog shit. And you see it around the league, right? When the Miami Dolphins lost Tua, they brought in Skylar Thompson. He was dog shit. So it really does matter to invest in the quarterback position. I know a lot of people come at me and say, oh, well, you like every quarterback under the sun. I like to invest my time in prospects because if you have a starter and you bring in a young guy to develop him, at least that person's there in the system. Mariota has been in the system for 2 years, is a wily veteran, doesn't have to worry about starting. He understands his role, like a Jimmy Garoppolo at this point for the Rams. They kind of come in here and they're veteran guys that you don't have to worry about them. Do I need to worry about this? Do I need to worry about that? No, they understand. They've seen a lot of defenses in their day. They understand how to navigate an offense. And that's why, again, you get a guy in like Marcus Mariota. I thought he did a good job, an admirable job in doing that, throwing for a touchdown, not putting the ball in harm's way, getting the offense in the down and distance that they needed to be, and just basically being the heady veteran that he needs. As for the offense, I think their run game was spectacular, and we saw that in game 1. I think they got a little bit dismantled by Green Bay, who was, short week. They couldn't really defend, but a team like Washington, this is their trend, right? We talked about it in week 1. They beat bad teams, and then week 2, they can't stack up to the actual good elite teams in the conference. They beat a bad team in Las Vegas who we thought had higher expectations, but they're still trying to find themselves over there with Pete Carroll and everything like that, and Ashton Genty, and they have a lot of talent, but it's not coming together yet, obviously. So with that being said, we have to find out, like the show says, if the Commanders are real or they're pretenders. And if they go and lose games to like Green Bay's of the world, then they'll be pretenders. But having a guy like Marcus Mariota will allow you to win games like Las Vegas, will allow you to win games going down the stretch. Like obviously, we're going to talk about their next game, but in this game they did everything that they needed to do. As for defensively, I thought they had a good bounce back performance um, defensively in a game where they needed to have a bounce back. Sure, they gave up 24 points, but if you look at the overall, stats, you know, they held the team to under 100 yards rushing. The 261-yard passing is a little inflated because they were dominating the game, so they had to give up passing yards. So it's not really a reflection on how the game really went. And then if you look at this stat, which is right here, they rushed for over 200 yards. Okay, 200 yards. Like you can look at everything else is basically almost the same, right? The first downs, 17 to 17. Third down efficiencies, they were about 50%. Fourth down efficiency. Obviously, the Raiders were good, but the Raiders were in dire need. And then, of course, you had 62 plays. You had the 5 sacks that they gave up. The Vegas gave up, and they punted 6 times. So really, and the time of possession favored the Raiders. But when you look at how in the grand scheme of things, those sacks, the drives, and let's talk about special teams for a minute here. They are big. They are key. They had a big return coming out the gate, a 95-yard punt return that flipped the field, right? When you can score without having to score on your offense, it allows you to play a little bit looser. And so for me, if I'm a Commander fan, you should be excited because you beat that team, but you also should be leery. Like when we do play Green Bays of the world and the Detroits of the world and the Philadelphias and so on and so forth, how will we stack up? So for me, that's how I'm looking at it. Now, as for what this guy said, David, welcome to the show. Thanks for timing in.
What up,
Do
David?
not RG3 this dude. Think long term for Daniels. Exactly. Like I said, the next couple games we're going to get into it in a little bit, but they play Falcons. You don't think that they don't need to rush Jaden Daniels back. Take as much time as you need because, like he said, RG3. I don't know if you guys were around for RG3. I don't know how old you were, Zion, but RG3 came
Yeah, I
in
didn't get drafted
to the
in, my bad.
game. They went into the playoffs. He
Same
busted
year
his
as Andrew
knee.
Luck.
Yeah, yep. Came in. He busted his knee. Shanahan let him go back in the game, and he got his knee completely destroyed, and it really derailed his career. Right? He never really bounced back from that.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think Mike Shanahan is a legend, coach.
He is a legend, but he made a big gaffe in a big moment. Instead, and he's even said it himself. In revisionist history, he probably shouldn't have done that. But he was, RG3 came out like gangbusters, and Jaden Daniels is basically day to day, week to week.
Is he signed to Prime now? Does he call Prime like he does pre games on Prime? I think or G3, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I don't know if he does it on Prime, but he does.
But he's
He
game on one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he mentioned it. Shanahan's mentioned it. It's one of those things that he came out like gangbusters. Rookie of the year, would have been rookie of the year. I think he was rookie of the year. And then his career got that injury and never was the same. Andrew Luck ascended, while RG3 kind of struggled to regain that form. And I just think he never was the same. And that's why that's why Commander fans are leery that they would do the same thing. Like I said, when you have a commander, a quarterback like a Marcus Mariota, this is where you don't need to press the envelope. We won a game. The next opponents, I mean, I'm sure Marcus Mariota would love to play Atlanta after he got railroaded by them, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I'm saying is, if you have these kind of games where you don't necessarily need Jaden Daniels on the field to be Superman, then use Mariota. And then if it takes 3-4 weeks and you're winning games and you end up being 3-1 and you're in the thick of things, then you can bring him back when he's healthy and the games start to get a little bit more tighter and you can bring him back and get him on the same page. Because right now, like you said, Deebo Samuel had a game. He's making a contribution. Terry McLaurin, that's an injury they have to worry about. Apparently, it's a quad injury. He's day to day, but from what I heard, his status for Sunday is a little up in the air. So that's an injury you want to monitor as well. So, and one more thing to close it out before I go back to Zion. is I thought the Commanders defense needed a rebound game. They needed a game where they can come out, get 3 sacks, get 5 sacks, harass Geno Smith, make his life miserable. Sure, did they have problems giving up to the receiver? What was his name again that you said? Trey Smith, I think you said. Not Trey Smith. Trey Johnson. He played a phenomenal game, and he's one of them. He's him. He's a dog for that team. So they're gonna have to work on that. But again, if you're behind in the game, what are you going to do? You're going to throw a lot, just like what the Giants did last week with the league neighbors. He had a lot of yards, but in the long run, didn't really end up in winning because they were coming from back from behind. So those are my thoughts on the Commander game. If you have any more thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, so like my only last thought will basically just be a big shout out to Dan Quinn. This is a guy that basically was coached for Atlanta. This is a guy that coached Atlanta to a Super Bowl. Obviously lost to the Patriots, but coached, had 2 double-digit win seasons in Atlanta. He goes to Dallas. He's the DC for a bit, and have a second chance at a head coach, and definitely take advantage of it. In his first year, taking him to the NFC Championship game. I hate giving another opponent props, but I know they're the ops. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give special shouts to Dan Quinn, man. I love seeing this,
Well,
I love seeing it.
This is the NFC East Real Deal Roundup show, so you have to be kind of open-minded. So you have to take, even though you're wearing a giant hat behind that screen, you have to kind of take that hat off and just know that, if you're going to get respect as a football
unbiased,
fan, you got to give unbiased. Now, it doesn't really matter, but I respect what you said too about Dan Quinn. Let's chat with him real quick. This is why you have a coach like him with a team like that. They have a lot of holes, but he's a veteran and understands and can navigate the tumultuous time. They look like they took that 10-day layoff that they had from Thursday night game to, took the 10 days to really prepare for this game and really
get themselves mentally focused.
Right, exactly. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to get the beat down out the way and give yourself a little time. And here it is. So again, if I'm Dan Quinn, I don't push anything with, and he's pretty smart, so I don't think he's going to do that. Being that he understands the delicate nature of the situation that he's in. Again, this is why you bring in Marcus Mariota. Cannot keep reiterating this as a coach, and this is why you spend, not a huge amount of dollars, but you brought him back for this reason. And hey, maybe he becomes a starter somewhere else as a bridge quarterback if he decides he wants to do that. But right now he's here and he can lead your team, and Dan Quinn knows what he's doing. So let's move on to the next game on Sunday. And that is probably the most exciting game of the weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Los Angeles Rams. Fantastic game, fantastic finish. Zion, I'll let you give your thoughts.
Yeah, so this is the game that I did watch because obviously I'm in Los Angeles. No, I'm not in Los Angeles. I'm 2 hours away from Los Angeles. But y'all don't need to know my exact location. Obviously, the network television is gonna obviously put on the Rams game, but I love that they did because this is a game that I did highlight. I did want to watch this game. These are 2 undefeated teams coming into this game, and boy, was it a tale of 2 halves. And Adam said it perfectly. This is one of the most amazing finishes we've seen of the season. We've seen the Rams come in, dominate early. Puka's getting open with no problems. We see Matthew Stafford just hitting his timing right. Who's running the ball? Kyron Williams is running up and down. And then on defense, defense is just going crazy. Jared versus forcing strip stacks. It's just like literally domination from the Rams. They go and they just pull out an amazing first half leave Philadelphia in the dust. Philadelphia as a total offense had like 33 yards gain. Barkley couldn't get runs. The timing looked completely off on offense. Nobody could get open. And then halftime came. And veterans do what veterans do. Good football teams do what good football teams do. Super Bowl championships, winning football teams do what the Super Bowl champion is supposed to do. They went into the locker. I don't know what the fuck they did, but they went into the locker, and excuse my French, but they came out in the second quarter and they absolutely mauled. All of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is just throwing 3 touchdowns. Everybody's running up and down the field. The Rams look lost and confused. AJ Brown is just catching balls, paws. Devontae Smith's getting open, and then it comes down to the Rams like, oh, let's not turn into the Falcons versus the Patriots. We're up 26-7. How do we lose this game? Well, we lose this game by not running the football. Guess what? They are running the football. They are trying to get open. What does Philadelphia do? They block a field goal on a field goal attempt. I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening. Rams move it down the field again. I know I'm going fast forward through this take, but I want Adam to give his thoughts too. Rams move it down the field again. Okay, they're going for the game-winning kick now. What do? Philadelphia blocks it again, and then they take it in for another unnecessary touchdown. It's just ridiculous. This is one of the greatest finishes I've seen in a regular season game in a while. Obviously, we had that mad finish a couple nights ago. I believe it was on Monday night or Sunday Night Football. That was a mad, crazy finish as well. But man, this was fun to watch. Huge on special teams. Grade A to special teams. Defense for the Eagles. Absolutely A+ on defense. Jalen Hurts, bro, I would not ever say anything bad about you again. I don't know, Nick Sirianni, you're becoming one of my favorite coaches. I'm not trying to glaze the Eagles right now, but they deserve the glaze. I hate saying this, but God damn you, fuck the Eagles, man. Fuck the Eagles.
Sounding like Mac when he's on this show too, because he can't stand praising the Eagles as well. This is another game I got to dive into, being that I'm, again, the broadcast kind of comes in this surrounding spot. So I got to watch them, and it was interesting to see because we were texting at halftime, man, the Rams look like they the best team in football right now, right? And they came out gangbusters. I told you they circled that game saying, we going to smack that ass. Well, they did. And then they took the pedal off the metal. And this is why we talk about championship teams. This is why we talk about winning teams, because they didn't waver. They just said, all right, dusted themselves off, and they opened the playbook up. Most of the game, the Eagles were being the conservative team that they were the last 2 games, right? They throw when they needed to throw, they passed, they ran when they needed to run, and they basically bludgeoned the way down the field with the Cowboys. And I forgot who they played in game 2. It's eluding me.
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yes. They had a game against the Chiefs that went back and forth, right? And then they play LA, who's coming in hot off the press, right? Hot off the 2-0 wins, circling this game on the calendar. And Eagles, like they do, come in and win a game because they know how to win. Their team knows how to win. And there's something about, when you have that resolve that they're going to come through. They just expect to do it. And that's what happened. Like you said, 2 blocked field goals in the same game. Probably hasn't happened in years. And then, of course, you have Jordan Davis, who I feel is playing his best football of his career. I can listen to Adam praise the Eagles all day. The music to my ears. That's my friend Tom. Quick story. I lost awesome. a bet to him back in 2006. Giants played the Eagles in the playoffs. He said, if I win, I'll wear a Giant jersey. If you win, I will wear an Eagle jersey. I lost. I did not wear that Eagle jersey, but instead I had to wear it, let it hang from my door for a week. It might have hung there a little longer, but it did not come down for, I think it lasted as long as the playoff run of the Eagles. So for a week or 2 there. So yeah, Tom can tell you all about that story sometime down the road. But like I said, listen, we're in the Real Deal NFC East roundup. I have to be a bias. I have to give you the opinion of Adam not wearing his Giant hat on. So yeah, we glaze the Eagles and everything like that, but the Eagles earned their glaze. Okay, they earned all of it. They are the defending, or as Paul Heyman says, the reigning defending champions. They are the ones that everyone should look up to, and they proved it this week in this game. They proved that they are the top team. Remember, a lot of people were praising the Packers and saying how good the Packers were.
Yeah.
And that they're the best team of football. And I said, you know what? You got to, the best team of football is not where it does wear green, but it doesn't wear it wears Kelly green,
It's
right?
almost
Because a
as
lot
if
of
like
people,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's like how do you put Ohio State not number one in college? They just won the Natty. How do you put Eagles not number
exactly
one because they haven't lost since the Super Bowl and they won the Super
right,
Bowl?
and they won the
Can I
Super Bowl.
just
So it's not that
can
they
I just say
lost.
this real
They
fast? Shout out to Jay Ferris. I'm up in SB, man. I always wanted to visit your guys' zoo. I know you guys have an amazing zoo down in San Diego. I got to get down there one of these days. Let's get it. Sorry.
heard it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live. But the point is that the Eagles in my lifetime, the Eagles have always been a sneaky team. They've always been that team that's good enough but doesn't always win it. Now they're almost a dynasty, right? They've won more Super Bowls than the only team that's been to the Super Bowl more than them in the last decade has been the Kansas City Chiefs, right? I mean, they went in 2017, they went in 2022.
It
They
reminds me of us. It reminds me of the Giants in 07 and 11. They did it in quite the same fashion.
Right. And the thing is, even though they lost players, a lot of people want to talk about, well, they lost this, they lost that. Their core is intact. And I want to just say this: give respect where it's due. Nick Sirianni is a pretty good coach, right? And
Oh,
whether you like him or
definitely.
not, and his theatrics, he wins. He fucking wins. That's what he does. He gets his guys ready, and every week they're prepared. The backup comes in, that guy's prepared. They buy into everything that goes on in there. They buy in as a team. They like each other. They love being hated by the league. Okay, they take on the persona of that city, and they have playmakers everywhere. They build. I was talking to AK in the chat here. Well, he was complaining about
Oh,
the tush push, but that's a story for
that's
another
a
day.
real
But
stat, bro.
yeah,
What?
and so the
That's
Eagles
respect.
have done. I was telling him that the Eagles are the toughest team to defend outside of probably the Cowboys offense. Why? Because the Cowboys offense only needs to play to the 50 to get points because Audrey can kick the ball from the moon, right? So if he can kick the ball from the moon, then you don't need to play the entire field. The Eagles, even I think it was Tom Brady said it. Tom Brady said it best. He said the Eagles play three downs to get 9 yards. The fourth down is for that tush push that they use. And since that's so effective, they don't need to worry about getting 10 yards on every play. They just need to get basically nine because then they're going to tush push their way for that 1 yard. You know how hard that is to defend? And then what they showed you last week is that if they're down and they need to sling it around the yard, that Jalen Hurts is capable of doing that. And he kind of showed you and kind of gave the middle finger to all those haters out there saying, you think I'm not a good quarterback? I'm going to show you. And if they don't have Jalen Hurts having a good game that in terms of the second half, they don't win that game. They got dominated, and they didn't have. This is why you have a champion, right? You had the Rams talking junk, talking shit in their face, smacking them, getting 5 sacks. Basically, the Eagles couldn't do nothing. And like you said, at halftime they made adjustments. They took on their quarterback, right? They took out the
Yeah.
quarterback, and bang, there it was. He came out and they play like the quarterback. So the Chiefs had the formula to beat them. The problem is that they just couldn't close the deal, right? Jalen Hurts in that game, they took out, like you said, they took out the run game, but Jalen Hurts was an X factor. The X factor this week, Jalen Hurts again, this time with his right arm. And the thing about the Eagles, like I said, this is why I think they're the best team in football, or at least the best team in the conference. It was one because they've beaten everybody in the conference that matters, and two, they're just almost undefendable because you don't know they can beat you with their top receivers and tight end in their passing game. They can beat you with their running game. They can do long ball, short ball. They can do whatever you want to play. They are good at it. It doesn't matter how you want to. You want to take away the deep pass, they're just going to run on you. You want to take away the run game, they're just going to pass on you. You know what I mean? And then defensively, they have everybody coming in waves, right? Zach Bond, Jahad
Facts.
Campbell, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. They make plays when they need to make plays. And they're a unit. Even though they have some young guys in the back end who might give up a play here, they're constantly in the right position. And that's what happens when you're a winning team. You build winning habits, you build winning traits, and you build a winning culture, and that's what everybody feeds off of. That's that electricity that you get when everybody's bought in. I mean, look at the Eagles. They have Jacoby Dean. They don't need that guy anymore, right? Now they have assets and moving that asset to go get another asset, right? They're probably going to pick up C.J. Gardner-Johnson right now if they need to, and they traded that guy away. You know what I'm saying? They can just bring him in and say, you know what? We need a corner to upgrade over Adoree Jackson. Maybe we'll bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Who knows? But when you have a team that that offensively can do, I told you guys it's the greatest show on turf. It might be better than that in the modern day, right? We might be talking about this Eagle team if they go on to do big things and win a couple more Super Bowls. We might be talking about this team in the light of being one of the greats of all time that we should have coined a phrase for, because they do more than the greatest show on turf. The greatest show on turf was a track meet. Everybody on that team ran like a 4.2. Not everybody runs a 4.2 on this team, but they're physical, right? They're more physical than the greatest show on turf. If you look at the Super Bowl back in 2001, I do believe, when the Rams played the Patriots, Bill Belichick, and now I'm dating myself, that's how old I am, but Bill Belichick's game plan was to knock the Rams down no matter what, hit the receivers, bang, no matter if they come up, hit them, and it knocked the Rams kind of off their game. They could never really recover. They eventually clawed back into the game, but you could tell that it mentally broke them. That won't happen with the Eagles. Mac, my man,
Gotcha, man.
he is having vacation. I hope he's having Mai Tais somewhere,
Absolutely.
enjoying this. But the Eagle, Mac, we're at your favorite segment, praising the Eagles. Oh God. Anyways, bookends. Shut it. I'm the one navigating the ship. Just kidding. No, but we're gonna end this segment here. What I was saying was, to end the segment and land the plane about the Rams and the correlation is, I think this team is better equipped physically to take on whatever defense comes out there, right? So, anyways, that's all I got on the Eagles. Anything else?
I just have a couple of final thoughts. Just to add on what you were saying. I love this comment from Jay Ferris. Absolutely, he's serving pasta at times. I'm serving pasta at times. He's a sous chef at times. I'm the sous chef at times, and that's why our chemistry from Premium Takes just works great on this show as well. And thank you again
Joe, today is not the day
bringing
to
me
talk
on.
about the Cowboys.
That being said, final thoughts is, I love what you say. I think this is the best offense in football. I get it. A lot of people wants to give credits to maybe offenses that throw the football a lot with the Dallas Cowboys. I know when Joe Burrow is healthy, that offense gets a lot of praise with Chase and Higgins. I know last year Miami got a lot of praise, just how the speed. But at the end of the day, when you look at the Eagles, like, it's really tough. They run it by choice majority of the time. You would too if you had Barkley in the backfield. And when they do actually have to get down the moments, or they do have to, scheme some stuff up, they scheme some stuff up. And then another thing I wanna get to is, you're absolutely right. I think this offense is going unnoticed a lot. But when it's all said and done, when we look back at this team in about 20 years, we're gonna be like, man, this team was special and we should have enjoyed them. Well, we could. It's hard for us to enjoy them because we're Giants fans. I know Eagles fans enjoy them, but I'm just saying, for the landscape
No,
of the
some
NFL,
of them
everybody
don't.
yeah, everybody wants to talk about the Chiefs and the Ravens and Lamar and Henry. But guess what? Jalen and Barkley has a championship. So that being said, they deserve my respect. But another thing I want to point out, my last take on it is another thing. I hate giving these coaches props, but this is another coach where he's so intelligent that he's scheming up a play that the NFL can't stop. So some teams are crybabies and they want to ban it in the offseason in league meetings. That's how good your coach is. He's scheming up a play that can't be stopped, and that's the definition of playing football. And these other owners are complaining about it, so they want to ban the play. He's playing chess. A lot of teams are playing checkers. Back over to you.
Technically, it's like a legal play, but hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So that's what the saying is. And if you have a play that can't be stopped, stop. But it's that time of the show. We're moving on to the segment that I think Bookends decided to show up for, the last game of the Sunday, and unfortunately the last game of Sunday's football slate. Obviously, of the Monday night slate. And yeah, let's just say it didn't go the way a lot of people thought. That is the New York Giants against the Kansas City Chiefs. So before we're going to get into all the news and all the notes. That's why I've saved this segment for the last segment so we can take some of your thoughts and get some of our thoughts on what is transpiring with this team. But we have a game we need to go over real quick first before we can do all of that. So I'm going to let Zion get into his thoughts on the game, and then I'll jump in, and then of course we'll jump into all the news that is coming out.
Absolutely. First off, tough game to watch. A game that we should have been more competitive at. The Chiefs really struggled in this game, but they got the win because they were the better team that night. Shout out to, I guess, less penalties, but at the end of the day, we can't give any shout outs because of the fact that we went 1-10, 1-10 on third downs, right? We can't go 1-10 on third downs and expect to win football games. Another bone I have to pick is but just why. I know we'll get into that, and I'm happy that it happened. But there's no sense to always just try to throw it up, and hope for a play. I didn't like that. It looks like an inexperienced Madden player playing Madden, just always trying to go for the post routes. It's just hard to watch. Our offense is just really hard to watch. Malik Neighbors, how are we not scheming him open? If I was the coach, I'll just scheme him open. He'll get the ball on the first fucking play on a slant route, kind of what we used to do with Odell Beckham. Where is that out? I don't know. Why is it when I'm watching this team play on offense and we're not winning the football, all of a sudden all of my receivers is out of the view of my screen? Why are they all running deep routes? Like I just don't get it. Like not all plays, but there's so much plays we're all one in deep routes. There's no reason to be all one in deep routes or medium routes. Where's the concept of play design? Where is the scheming? Where is that's just offense. Now what came out of this game, I guess, is Cam Scatterbu. We kind of have arguably say we established our clear running back. But at the end of the day, I was drunk probably at halftime because I was drinking fast, just trying to avoid like watching this beatdown that was upon us. And the fact of the matter is, it wasn't even a beatdown. It was just the Chiefs wasn't playing good football. It just wasn't. But they were playing better football than the Giants because Giants always can't play football. Like Bad Dog would say, we're like the slime of the trash can. Industrial trash can. When you take out the trash and you look in the bottom of the slime, that's what the New York Giants are in the NFL. Clearly ranked as my bottom team. We deserve to be down there with Carolina at this point. I can't even give any our kicker gets hurt. 2 interceptions, just killing moments. Like, what positives can I take out of this game outside of Scatterbu and good plays by Brian Burns? I mean, like Brian Burns been performing. There's individual performances that I want to give credit for, but this is not boxing of the UFC, bro. Like we're not operating as 11. We're not flowing. Like there's no flow. It's tough to watch this team play football, and it's tough to see Brian Dable coach this team. Now, Mike Kafka, I'm not gonna get on him that much, even though he's calling plays, but he needs to improve all around. Every facet of this team needs to improve. I know we're gonna talk about Dort. I honestly think this was the right thing to do. I'm gonna save that for later. I think this team does need a spork. Get right game for the Chiefs. I have nothing to say about the Chiefs. I mean, like, they're supposed to win this game. I picked the Giants to win this game just off of hope, and faith. But then reality kick in, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm getting drunk at halftime. I'm already on my 10th beer. But that being said, yeah, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, I really have nothing else to say.
Well, mind you, folks, the first half is only 30 minutes. So to have 10 beers in 30 minutes, he's on a good pace. Anyways,
Only bought a 12-pack, Adam.
Either way, so you had 2 beers.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They forced me to drink the 12-pack was supposed to last maybe into the next day, maybe to the morning. I didn't want to be an alcoholic that night, but they made me be an alcoholic that night.
Listen, I don't blame you. I will say this. I had a rant prepared, and let me see if I can build up the rant because, when I talk about this team, it just gets me more angry. And let's start out with the coach. Brian Dable, you are an idiot. You are an absolute idiot, okay? This team is never ready for any scenario. How does your defense not jump on a football? I saw the ball in other games go to the ground. Teams were freaking jumping on top of it. We got people standing around looking at the friggin' play, seeing if it's over, not doing anything. Mahomes comes in and knocks the ball out. They get the ball. That continues that drive. He throws the ball back again thanks to the pressure, and Bobby Okereke gets it ripped out, and they go back down and kick a field goal or whatever it was, or punt it away. The Giants constantly do dumb shit after dumb shit after dumb shit, and I blame that on the coach. I blame him because this is his mess that he's made. The other thing I will say is that Shane Bowen, while he admirably played well, they don't do nothing. Debo doesn't catch nothing. Phillips is being taken advantage of. And I know somebody said something. The Eagles are lucky. They should be 0-3, right? Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. They're 3-0. Why? Because they win. They find ways to win. The Giants are 0-3. Why? Because they find ways to fucking lose. That's why they're 0-3. You can tell me, well, the Giants could have beaten they didn't. You know why? Because Kansas City at halftime made fucking adjustments. They had a whole second game plan. They came out, they moved the football. The first thing they did was did a rollout completion. You know what that means? That's called coaching. They understood what your brush was. So instead of standing back there and getting Mahomes killed, they rolled him out. Then in the second half, after you throw an interception, right? They move down the field and get a penalty by Phillips, the DB or Debo, whoever was down there. Why? Because they understand the moments in the game. They understand the down and distances in the game. They understand the concepts of the game. This is why I blame the coach. Andy Reid had those boys prepared. They could look terrible, but they understand situational football. They understand what they need to do. Okay? And then the second half, you got guys like Tyquan Thornton making play after play after play on our guys. Tyquan Thornton couldn't make it in the league.
Him look
He's
like a
making
household
play.
name. Yeah.
Why? Because they made adjustments. Steve Spagnuolo laughed at you. He took your best player. I said at the beginning of this year on this show, I said the Giants offense sucks. I said people laughed in my face and said you brought back all 11 guys. You have no secondary receiver. If Malik Neighbors gets injured or taken out of a game, because I said a lot of these defenses have the capability of doing it, the Giants offense can't do shit. Well, guess what? That was the case. Spagnuolo looked at you. He's like, I'm going to stop your run, and I'm going to take away Malik Neighbors. Go beat me with Darius Slayton and the midget. Go beat me with those two guys. They did nothing. Darius Slayton is who we thought he was. He's a guy that gives you one big play a game, and then you don't see him the rest of the way. Wan'Dale Robinson can't do nothing. He gets one play here, one play there. Then he'll have a breakout game when you're playing against the Cowboys, who are a sieve. There's no creativity. You see what the Chiefs did on the other side? They gave their kick returner the ball on an end around. They said, "Oh, you got speed? Let's do it." And they did something different. We go out there, we run the same fucking power all the time, the 11 personnel, whatever. Then you bring in the blonde bomber in Jackson Dart, and what happens? What happens? The offense moves. It looks a little different. Why? Because you need to start that guy. And we'll get there in a minute. But there's no flavor in this offense. And I blame Daboll. I also blame Russell Wilson, who, by the way, I told you guys was cooked. You didn't want to listen to me. But you can't bring that guy and have these plays not being made. You can't have him just chuck the ball downfield. Not every game is going to be Dallas Cowboy game. Especially when you got coaches like Spagnuolo. You have another coach that you're going to play this week who understands detail and situation. This is why we got out-coached. We're getting out-coached week in and week out. Dan Quinn laughs at us. Brian Schottenheimer out-coached us. And now we have Andy Reid and Spagnuolo.
Brian in the second game out-coached. That's so embarrassing.
Then Brian Schottenheimer goes to Chicago and gets out-coached by Ben Johnson. And we can't even do anything. All I heard all week was, we got a chance to beat the Chiefs. We got a chance to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs look bad. And we lost. We lost 2 games this season when teams playing their worst. The Commanders came out sleepwalking, and the Chiefs can't get out of their own damn way. Well, guess what? The Chiefs are back in the race, aren't they? Because they're playing the Ravens next week. Guess what record the Ravens are? 1-2. They go and beat the Ravens. It's a whole different ball game for the Chiefs now. It's a lot different when you're 0-3 when you're 1-2. And the Giants did this to themselves constantly. The one positive, I think, is Andrew Thomas. But then when you bring Andrew Thomas out, Marcus Bowe comes in and gives up some plays. Why don't you just leave Andrew Thomas in the game? Why is he on a pitch count? If he's on a pitch count, don't play him. Play him until he's healthy. But no. We have to be conservative with him because we're the Giants. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to play these guys and hope they do something. Bobby Okereke, I heard his name once. This big vaunted defense that everybody told me about can't stop the run against a team that can't even run the football. We gave a 5 yards carry to a team that cannot run the football. They have nobody on that team. They have a washed-up Pacheco. They have a Keem Hunt who can't do nothing. And they have a rookie and Mahomes running. And they still beat us. We're still getting beat by play-action passes. We're still getting beat by crossers. You know who their receivers were? Tyquan Thornton and Hollywood Brown. And we got beat by them. What are we doing here? This team is a mess. It's an absolute travesty. And that's why everybody needs to go. However, there is some news. Obviously, if you haven't lived under a rock in the last few weeks, last few days, you know that there's been a quarterback change. But before you hear my side, I'd like Zion to comment about the happenings with the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, like, I absolutely love it. Going into the season, I have to admit, you guys all heard me. I was preaching Russell Wilson. I was saying Russell Wilson has the skills to carry this team. Obviously, we've seen 3 games. We've seen 2 horrific games, and we've seen 1 good game, but against the Giants. I mean, against the Dallas. And we all can obviously say now, after 3 weeks, the Dallas defense is absolutely trash. So one thing I noticed that I love about this change is exactly what you laid out. You're a veteran quarterback in your 14th year. You can't just chug the football down the field and expect miracles to happen. It's not going to happen. Just take a sack, throw it out of bounds, live to fight another down. Another thing I didn't like about Russell Wilson is not being able to score in the red zone. I don't care what line you have in front of you. You're a veteran quarterback. Make it the fuck happen. I'm sorry, that's tough love, but you've been in this league for 14 years. I can't have you airing it over the top. There's like at least 6 times where it's just over the top, and it was hard to watch, especially when we can't move the ball on offense and when we have situations in the red zone. We need to capitalize.
How do you get intentional grounding?
Yeah.
How do you get intentional grounding there? You throw the ball into the stands. I've never seen intentional grounding.
Yeah, shooting to the tunnels. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, what the fuck's going on here? Then what? Another thing is the effectively, obviously, don't like coach. Coaches can't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? I love the report. He's like, don't you think you owe it to your fans to give an explanation why you chose this? No, he can't say shit. Well, this is what happened in those fucking meetings. He probably sat both of those quarterbacks down and he probably said, like, hey, guess what? We don't have the best offensive line right now, and Jackson Dort's mobility is going to bring spark to this offense that's needed, so we're going to roll with Dort. And I absolutely fucking agree. I think Jackson Dort behind center at the helm is going to bring a little bit of life. I think you're going to get a little bit of energy out of Malik Neighbors. Not like there wasn't there energy before, but I just think that now that he's a rookie, I think the play calling is just going to adjust more where we can get the ball to our playmakers faster than what we was watching. And I just think with him and Scott is just going to bring a whole life that as much as we suck this year, at least I can go in there and now I can take the season to really study Jackson Dort. And I watched him in Ole Miss, but I can really see him in the NFL, what he does against defenses. And I think he is going to bring some life to some teams, and we're going to sneak some victories that we wouldn't necessarily sneak if Russell Wilson, because he's not going to be scared. He doesn't know what pressure feels like yet. So he's not going to be scared of pressure. So he's just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to, okay, there's Jackson Dort for a 12-yard gain when he should have been sacked. We've seen it time after time again when these young rookies come into the NFL. We've seen it with Jaden Daniels. We've seen it with Caleb Williams. We've seen it with Andrew Love. Like all of these mobility quarterbacks that come in, and Jackson Dort is a mobile quarterback, is literally the first season is fun to watch. No film on them yet. You can just play loose, play free, and that's what he's gonna do. He's not gonna think. Russell Wilson's a veteran. He's seen every single defense that known to mankind. He's thinking too much. He's not feeling the game. He's not flowing. Jackson Dart just gonna go in there and flow and just hopefully get into a flow state. Now against Jim Harbaugh, that's gonna be a tough game. That's gonna be a tough game. But we'll talk about that game when we talk about that game. But right now, I love the decision by the Giants, and I was super happy about it.
Well, people, I told you. I told you week in and week out for the last 6 weeks leading up to the start of the show, Jackson Dart should start. Those are my words. Jackson
Give this
Dart
man his flowers.
start.
Yep.
And people told me why. I said, did you not watch the preseason? Oh, well, it's the preseason. Yeah, but I don't care that we're scoring 30 points. Look at how the offense is moving. But when Russell Wilson was in the game, we didn't do much. Oh, no, what are you talking about? We had the moon ball. I said, listen, man, I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm just telling you what I'm telling you. You don't want to believe, you don't want to believe. So what did we do? We rolled out Russ. And there's been rumors. Pat Leonard came on in a space that I was in, and he kind of alluded to that they had to start Russell Wilson regardless because somebody from the higher ups wanted him to start. So what does that mean? Why do we need it? Why doesn't the coach get to pick the guy he wants to start, who he wanted to start day one? And how do you know we don't win that game against the Commanders when they know that they have to defend the run and not worry about a quarterback who can't even see over his offensive line, who can't run anymore, who's washed, who I mentioned to you guys was washed. And I got met with every stop in the book. Well, it's not ready. He's not ready. What he's not ready for? The guy played in the SEC. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. What is he not ready for? What is he not ready? He plays in arguably the best conference in the entire NCAA. Arguably the pro conference. You know how many teams generate pro players in that
I can actually give you a fact on that. Out of 256 players that gets drafted, 171 is from the Big Ten and the SEC.
Okay, so if you were to divide that in half, again, right? So that's 171. So about 90 players or so come from the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's a lot of players, and they want to. And Jay Ferris is right. People was talking that bullshit on Russell Wilson. I told you on this show that guy was washed. Go watch his last game. He was terrible. Oh, but the O-line.
Mr. Unlimited.
No, not but the O-line. No, but Russ sucks. Okay, it's okay to say that. We liked him because Mr. Unlimited finally brought a legitimacy to the quarterback position. Not to me. I didn't care. He made $10 million. Good job, Russ. It was fun to watch you for 3 weeks until the draft.
That Dallas game, though, that was living memory, though. That Dallas game will go on in history, even though he lost. Good job, Russ. That's your Giants moment, right?
High
five. At least he had that. At least he had that.
Still lost the fucking football game against a team that let Caleb Williams, who couldn't even read the far side of a barn, look like Fran Tarkenton out there. Give me a break. All I want to say is that this what needed to happen. It should have happened in day one. It needs to happen now. And think about this, okay? Think about this. I watched the Cowboy documentary, and they had Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin. We have Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbo, and Jackson Dart. Guys you can get excited about. Will they end up like those guys in the Cowboys? I have no idea. The offensive line is not as terrible as everybody makes it out to be. They were actually pretty good. They gave Russell time. He just didn't do anything with it because he can't run and he's got stone feet and he's getting skittish. Jackson Dart, like you mentioned, he's playing free. Now, do I think it's a desperation move? It's a desperation move now. And that's why I never agreed with Russell Wilson being the starter and not a competition. How are you going to walk in there? Jameis Winston didn't get a competition. He could probably have been better than both starting out the game. But they said, fuck it. But then you made Dart the number 2 quarterback. So why can't he be number 1? Because God forbid Russ sucks, which he does, or he gets injured, which he could have. You're going to have to put that kid in. And so if you trust him to come in off the bench, cold turkey, then you should be able to start a game. And here we are. We're now in the Dart era. And we're going to see what happens on Sunday. As a matter of fact, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm going to give you a spoiler right now. I think the Giants are going to win. That's my pick. I don't care what happens. That's how excited I am. I haven't picked the Giants in years.
Because of sport.
Because Dart does that. He gives you life. And I don't want to hear about this. Oh, this Daniel Jones shit. Oh, we're gonna fucking break it. Like, fuck that shit. Daniel Jones had a good fucking rookie year. It was Daniel Jones who fucked Daniel Jones. Okay. Now you can tell me all you want about that guy in Indianapolis. I don't give a shit what he's doing in Indianapolis. He sucked here, and you can't base that off of the experience of this kid. Because I could say this kid beats Eli Manning. How do you know he doesn't do that? We can't be scared to take the Band-Aid off this kid because he has to be ready. Somebody said it best. How do you know when he's ready? Tiki Barber said a rookie quarterback's never ready. So then just put him in there. He obviously learned from April to the start of the season. He learned jump leaps and bounds. He had a lot of people at the same reservations as some people in the draft who kept telling me, well, he played in the Lane Kiffin offense. Well, when I went and scouted the kid, I said, I don't know what the fuck these motherfuckers talk about. He can throw the ball all over the yard and he got a little swag to him too.
Let's act like Lane Kiffin didn't rebuild program after program after program. You know what I'm saying?
Right. To me, the reason why I wanted to start the kid and have it be an open competition is because I knew what Russell Wilson was. I knew what we were getting in him, and I didn't think he deserved anything other than competition in the thing. Now, if he went out there and he beat Jackson Dart legitimately, I would be like, all right, he did. There was not a single person in that locker room and in that beat reporter that agreed that Russell Wilson beat out Jackson Dart. As a matter of fact, they were curious as to why he didn't start game one. And now there's rumors that Dable wanted this, and that Dable has come out and said it was his decision to start that. Well, guess what? It should have been his decision who he starts game one. Imagine he wins with Jackson Dart game one. They don't do what they do against the Cowboys. Maybe it's not as clean, right? Who knows? Maybe he wins this game against Kansas City because he can actually fucking run. You don't know until he's out there. And from the things that I've seen, read, and learned about Jackson Dart, I am not worried. People, you don't listen to me, right? You don't. And what happens? We get burned because people just don't want to listen to what I'm saying. I don't bang the table for things unless I believe in them. I don't just say start Dart because I just want to see Dart start. I said start Dart because I believed he could do it. And I believed what I saw on tape and what I believed what he was doing in preseason. Watching the game. Not watching the game as a Giant fan, watching the game with a watchful eye to see what the mannerisms are. How's he doing this? Was this a good throw? Is he moving the football? Boom. And then Russell Wilson came on for 3 series, and I analyzed that, and I said, what's happening here? Something is not right. Something is not working when Russell's in the game. Yet Dart comes in the game. They're running RPOs, fake RPOs, throwing the ball, slant routes. The offense looked like a modern-day offense. Russell Wilson comes in, and all I got is moon balls. Yeah. And you saw that in the preseason. And so when I'm banging the table for 3 weeks and I'm getting pushback because people want Russell Wilson to start, I get it. You got PTSD because Daniel Jones was so shitty that it gave you PTSD. And you don't want to fucking we don't want to do that to another quarterback. This quarterback's not Daniel Jones.
What it was for me, though, this is what it was for me. Like, I didn't have PTSD. I know a lot of fans did. This was it was for me. I just thought, like, he was going to perform more like he did in that Cowboys game rather than what he did, like, because he was like pulling a Jameis Winston, just trying to football out. Like, that's not your style, Wilson. That's what you don't do. That's your style, but to a point. And I thought he was going to be that 14-year veteran quarterback, but clearly he wasn't. And even I don't blame him for nothing in Dallas. He played an absolutely big game in Dallas, but you can't judge that because it's Dallas. And that's the thing. It's like we have a 14-year quarterback damn near looking like a rookie, and his mobility shot. So once that game ended with the Chiefs, it's time. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that we're 0-3, it's almost as if like now everyone's counting us out now. Like everybody's gonna be watching us because of Doit, but good coach Jim Harbaugh is still gonna scheme a good game. But like what I'm saying is like nobody expects us to do shit now. And I love that position as Giants fans because who knows what this kid can bring to the table and what Scalaboo already brings to the table.
Right, exactly. Too young, happening dudes that carried their teams, right? Even the announcer was saying Scalaboo carried his team last year and he carried the run game last night. If you look at this, Jay Farrar says, you tell the team isn't feeling. I knew that when I was watching the highlights, and they would go into the huddle, and they're literally Jackson Dart and Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston are laughing at Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's taking it, thinking like, "Hey guys, I'm being accepted." They're laughing at you. They're laughing at you for a reason. Okay, They believed in the kid. They know the kid. They respect Russ. So they let him have his due. Me, that's not how we play games in the NFL. Trying to win.
But that's Brian
And if
Dable's
the kid gets
thing, right? He just gives like, why the fuck is Singletary still on the field? Oh, because he's a veteran. Brian Dable, I know he wanted to start door, but the Giants mass, whoever's like really calling the shots, like it should be Brian Dable. He should coach this team and everybody stay the fuck out, especially you, Mao, stay the fuck out. But at the end of the day, whoever's calling this shot, it's almost as if like they're giving these veterans like, we gotta give them seniority because they're veterans. No, fuck that. You know what I'm saying?
well, from what I heard, that Joe Shane kind of pushed Russell Wilson onto Brian Dable because that was his guy, and Dable's guy was Jackson Dart. So what's
There
happening?
you go. Joe Shane, get the fuck out of the business. You're not a fucking coach. You get us the fucking players
Right.
and you step the fuck back.
Right. So this is what's happening. There's a disconnect in the building, and shit's happening. And right now, if I'm Brian Dable, my job is literally on the line. The more I lose, the less likely it is I come back next year, regardless of how Jackson Dart looks. You're going to stifle me. And if you look at the offense, to be honest with you, people say the offense is bad. I will put money on it. Not very much because I don't have very much. That the offense is going to be better next week in terms of what they do. Now they may make mistakes because Dart is timing and all this stuff, but you know, you're going to see a different offense. You're going to see RPOs. By the way, you're going to see a number one receiver who's actually going to get the ball because this quarterback is not afraid to throw it, right? He also has that fight or flight mentality right now where he's not just going to stand back there and take hits. He will when he needs to, but he'll run. He'll need to learn to slide. But watch when he scored a touchdown. You see what he was doing in the game when he scored touchdowns? He was putting up the air. He was getting this little swagger going. We don't need the milquetoast quarterbacks anymore. Russ is a milquetoast quarterback, okay? He comes in and goes, Mr. Unlimited. Nobody cares about that guy. I didn't. I loved that he was here. I didn't. I knew that when he was here, that as long as they drafted a quarterback, I could get with the plan because that makes sense. You know,
You know what he brings? You know what he brings, dog? He brings ore. That's what he brings.
Exactly. But Russell Wilson is like a library. He's like the New York City library. You know, he's quiet. He has a lot of knowledge, and you know, he has a lot of history that you can learn from. So let Jackson Dart study with that guy. Let Jackson Dart see it from that guy's eyes as opposed to him being on the field. Because him sitting there watching Russell does nothing for the kid. What's he going to learn from Russell watching him? Your dad didn't get anything from showing you how to ride a bike. He had to help you ride the bike. He had to teach you from that perspective. Riding the bike and then tell you to get on doesn't do nothing. You don't know what you're doing. You're like, all right, Dad, I can see you ride the bike. That's great. Now you get on the bike and I watch you. And guess what? Now I can critique you and move on and give you the notes and the little nuggets that you may need to succeed. Russell Wilson's got $10 million. It's good for him to be a backup quarterback. It's okay. Take the knowledge.
I respect his press conference too, bro. He doesn't nothing against Aaron Rodgers. I love him as the quarterback, but there's something about Aaron Rodgers he wouldn't be able to sit comfortable doing this, right? So it's like when Russell Wilson was speaking, when I watched it earlier today, like, dude, I'm just happy he's a Giant. I'm happy he wants to be there now. If a situation comes up where obviously Joe Burrow is going to be injured longer and Bengals open up and make some phone calls and other team makes some phone calls, maybe there's an opportunity. But honestly, I think he's comfortable where he's at right now. I think him and Seattle really loves the city, and I think we have the best backup quarterback in all of the NFL.
Well, yeah, Jameis Winston. But let me put it to you this way, okay?
Both of them.
You know, this is what Russell Wilson is over, okay? You want to trade him with someplace, some team? Good, fine. Trade him with some other team. He's here for one reason alone. That is to extend his career in the broadcast field, okay? Because that's where he's going, to the booth. He was brought in here for $10 million. I told you the money don't talk. I told you the money don't lie. He was brought in here as one of the lowest starting quarterback monies in the league. $10.5 million with a chance to get to 21.5. He wasn't seeing the extra 11.5 million. And if you had sat him down, he got 10.5 million reasons why he's cool. But this year was about Jackson Dart, and it should have started that way to begin with. I feel bad that he's minus 3 games because who knows what would have happened. Remember, we won the Tampa Bay game with Daniel Jones that one year, right, after we were going 0-2. How do you know we don't win a game by putting in Jackson Dart? How do you know the defense in Kansas City, who didn't start Dart, all of a sudden Dart comes in at halftime and changes the whole offense? Because that's what he did. Look what he did in the Cowboy game. The Cowboys were running, they were stopping him. They put in Dart. He moved to the right and faked the pitch and gave the ball to Scatterboo, and Scatterboo ran because the whole defense flowed to the right. And another thing, nobody wanted Russell Wilson. I told you that. His own team didn't want him back. His own team offered more money to Justin Fields, who's a train wreck, more than they wanted Russell Wilson. That should have told us something. But of course, Giant fans have PTSD. You go, oh, well, what about Daniel Jones? Hold on. All the stuff I heard, kicking it down. Who gives a shit? This guy, they traded up to get this guy. Go put him in. And and I know all of you know, because you're knowledgeable fans, because you're on this show, you learn a lot, right? You all know, because you watch preseason, that Dart had the spark. If you go back and watch those preseason games again, the offense changed. He played with starters a few games, and they moved the ball up and down the field.
He was one of the best quarterbacks in all of the NFL in preseason, and everybody,
he already is ahead of the other quarterback that was here, because this guy can read a defense. He understands where to go, his hot routes. He has a little bit more swag to him. He's mentally prepared to take on New York. You know why? Because he played in the SEC. Every game is a big game to them. They can't lose to Furman as Ole Miss. They can't lose to these booty-ass teams. And then they play LSU. Oh, they play Georgia. And then Alabama comes coming to town. Oh, how about Auburn? Right? They play these big teams. Every game down in Ole Miss is a big game. And last year, he played against lesser competition in Duke. He blew the doors off with 400-something yards. And people are like, well, it's Duke. Isn't that what you want your quarterback to do? In a game against Georgia, he played on a bad ankle and won that game for him. Well, we want to talk about the Florida game. Okay, I can show you Peyton Manning losing games too. This kid's a young quarterback. You're not going to win them all. But when the money downs matter, do I have that guy? And I'm putting my stamp on Dart. I think he's got everything the Giants want. I don't care what happens with Brian Dable. We can't worry about that either. We can't sit here and be like, oh, well, you know what? We can't do that. No, we can't do that. This kid's going to go out and he's going to play, and he's going to show you whether he's well enough to be in the NFL or not. And then next year, if they decide to bring Dable back, but they should not, and they decide they want to build around Dart, at least they know. And if he goes out and he sucks, guess what? You're high enough to pick Lenore Sellers or Nussmeier or whoever the next coach might want. But you need to see him now, not only for his sake, but for the sake of the coach who we're trying to keep for. I don't need to see Russell Wilson, who had 14 years. I've seen him. I studied Pittsburgh. I understood what the fuck he did. You got to sometimes listen to the beat writers and what's going on and study the tape and listen to people who aren't just, homers of a team. You got to listen to what everybody's saying. You got to see the facts for what they are. This guy's been on three different teams in 4 years. They told him, hey, you could be on the Broncos, but we're drafting a quarterback. He wanted out. Then he took forever to get a job with Pittsburgh. And they came in and they started a kid, and they only started Russell because they brought him in. And then they didn't want him. And then who was lining up to get him? The lowly-ass Giants, who needed a quarterback, and the fucking Browns, who decided to go with Joe Flacco over Russell Wilson. And now we're at the Dart era, and I'm excited for it, and I'm happy for it. And this next 14 games are going to be fun to watch the development of this kid, to see if we have something, right? And I don't know if they're going to win games, but I believe, like you said, Zion, they're going to be a little bit more juiced. Hell, like I said, and we'll move into our pick segment. We'll start with the Giants and Chargers. This game, to me, is a huge game for the Chargers. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we couldn't start them. We had to wait for the Saints. The NFL is the NFL. You can go and lose to the Saints next week. And you have no idea what's going to happen. So you play him when you play him. It's up to him and the coaches to figure it out. But this week, big game. We'll move into it. It'll be our game we talk about right now. Unless you have anything else, Zion, we can move into our games.
I think you wrapped that up perfectly, and I just let you go because you was on fire there. So let's move on to our picks. I love it.
So we're going to start with the Giants and the Chargers since we're already on there. I'm going to go with the Giants here, not because I think they're the better team, but I'm just excited about Jackson Dart, and I want him to get his first win. Obviously, I love the quarterback on the other side of the team, Justin Herbert, who, by the way, is playing at an MVP level and might be the MVP of the league. And if he is, we'll come back and revisit my MVP pick of the year. But he is with a coach that finally understands the Chargers. The Chargers took the monkey off their back in week one, which was to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now they're playing with house money because to them, their Super Bowl was week one. When they beat the Chiefs and know they could slay the beast in their um, opener, and they still have one more game left, and who knows where the Chiefs will be at that point. But they got that right now. Now they're headed, in my eyes, to be one of the top teams in the AFC, and they have a chance to start to solidify home field as they go through, as long as they stack wins. And if I'm Jim Harbaugh, and I'm looking at this team, one, they're going to be prepared. They're going to be prepared. They're going to be physical, and they're not. They just came off a emotional victory against a Denver team who's pretty good, and kind of lost their way. They're coming to the Giants to be 4-0, and as much as I want to pick the Chargers, I'm so excited. I'm going to pick the Giants. So Zion, what are your thoughts about the Giants Chargers?
Yeah, I think Chargers is right up there. If not for Buffalo, they would be probably the best team in the AFC after the demolish what the Lions just did to the Ravens. But yeah, I was high on the Chargers going into the season. I kind of dropped my likings for them when they lost with Rashad Slater, but boy was I stupid because good teams know how to fix the problems. And what did they do? They maxed the problem pretty good while applying protection for the young, well, not the young, but the veteran quarterback, Justin Herbert, that's having an MVP like season, like Adam said. You got three teams beginning the season, three tough in division teams, the Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos. They went out there, they handled business with all three teams. If Russell Wilson was starting this game, boy, do I have my money on the Chargers. But like what Adam said, I know it's a stupid pick because I don't see in a world where Brian Dable outcoaches Jim Harbaugh. That's never happening. But what is going to happen is there's young players on the football field like Cam Scatteroo, like Malik Neighbors, and like Jackson Dort. That's just not going to let themselves go 0-4. There's players on the defense like Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon that's not going to let themselves go 0-1. So I think the players, no matter what the play calls is, we went out there and, we had 2 turnovers or interceptions against the Chiefs. We lost 9-22. Without those 2 turnovers, I'm not trying to play Monday quarterback, but there's a lot of things that can happen that can turn the game. I think, yes, it's his rookie game. But at the end of the day, the Chargers are riding high. I'm not saying that down looking the Giants because Jim's not that kind of coach. Jim's going to have his team mentally prepared. Jim's teams is basically as physical as Lions teams. So when you go into that scenario, we should get our asses beat. But I'm pick the Giants. I'll do it. I gotta do it. I'll pick the Giants too. Yeah. Just for the kid. I gotta do it for the kid.
But
when you have aura like that,
happens when you get
this is someone
toy.
that loves college football, and SEC is football. Go ahead, Adam.
This is what happens when you get a new toy, right? Look at Jaden Daniels. He played in the SEC, right?
Yeah.
His last year. Look what he did. Look what he's done in the league. Joe Burrow, SEC. Look what he's done in the league, right? These teams, they know how to read them there, right? So when you have a guy that knows how to play these big games, it doesn't phase him, and that's why I think they got the right guy. They didn't get some podunk from Duke who's never played in a big game in his life, who was rated who didn't have the skill set that necessary to do anything. Now, yeah, sure, good job, Indiana Jones. You're playing good there, but we all know it's going to happen down the road. I can't do every situation and blame Daniel Jones or say I can't do it. I got to look at the situation in front of me. And the situation in front of me, the Giants need life. And this is the life they're going to get. And it's exciting me to the point where I'm going to pick them. I might pick them every week knowing they're going to lose, but just because it's
You know what it comes down to, Adam, is like, it not that it comes down to any particular point, but the point I want to bring up is, when you look at this, you look at quarterbacks in 2000s, they're the goats. Don't get me wrong. Quarterbacks in the 90s, White Man, the 2000s, and we can talk about from 2000 to 2010 because that's the generation I grew up watching football, and I think that's some of the best quarterbacks I seen. But obviously, before that, you had Dan Marino, you had Montana, you had some legends, some goats. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at the modern day quarterback of the development of a quarterback, right? When you look behind the scenes, and you probably did too. I probably watched countless of hours of documentaries of Dort leading up to the draft and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, right? When we drafted them, and you kind of see what these young quarterbacks bring to the table is families are getting these quarterbacks coaches at the age of 7, at the age of 5. So he was trained his whole life to throw this fucking football. This is a quarterback that broke fucking country records in high school, having like 60 something yards in his seniors, touchdowns in his senior seasons. Then family move in to put him in the best scenario for high school football, playing on national schedules, and then you go and you set yourself up to get drafted by an NFL club, right? That sorry, not to get drafted, but to picked up to be in even select a college such as prolific as Ole Miss. You know what I'm saying? So he put himself in the scenario to get picked
and
up
broke Eli Manning's record.
by SEC. Yeah, then breaks Eli Manning's record, but who's there with him? He got Joe Judge there. He's under Lane Cliffin. You know what I'm saying? So then when who's he thanking? It was like a 2-hour video out there of his draft party. Who's he thanking? He's thanking his quarterback coach. He's thanking his high school coach. He's thanking his fucking Pop Warner coach. I mean, like, this guy was bred to play the game of footballs. And I'm gonna say it because I know Adam's probably thinking it, but I'm gonna say this. He gives me Mahomes vibes. I'm gonna go on a limb.
Wow.
I'm gonna say he gives me Mahomes vibes. I'm not saying he's gonna win like Mahomes won. I'm just saying he brings that vibe.
He gives me Baker Mayfield vibes.
I like that too. That's another good one. But
he gives me because I don't want to put too high, but Baker Mayfield is my ceiling for him. Like, if he ends up being Baker Mayfield, I'm gonna be happy as a pig in shit.
Yeah, I know that. What I meant from Mahomes vibes is just the way you look at this kid. You can just be like, there's something about him that just looks and just gonna be special. And will it happen in the Chargers game? Who knows? He might have a welcome to the NFL fucking moment and throw 2 interceptions, and that might be his worst fucking NFL game. And then from that to the Saints, it might be the sky's the limit. But like Adam said, I'm just so excited to have a new quarterback, and we're in a new era. And finally, Dable, this is your last fucking chance, because honestly, bro, I'm sick of you. You have your toy, you have it. Go. There's no excuses now.
Well, I think he's running on a short leash. But the comp for me for Baker Mayfield is kind of the way he's going to live dangerously, right? Baker Mayfield's playing the best football of his career, and we should be putting him up higher. Mahomes, nobody thought he was going to be what Baker Mayfield was coming out, so there's that. But I just think he reminds me of Baker, a little bit of Mahomes. He got the arm angles. He played baseball. That's one of the requisites I look for now in a quarterback, because the arm angles. But he just brings a different presence and different aura that I think is lacking with this team.
He's like the boat anyway, plus 1,000 ore.
Exactly. 1,000 ore, as you see in the chat here. But moving on to the game, we both have the New York Giants. Even though we know we're delusional in this, we're just excited about the car on the Autobahn, as Bookend said. We're ready to see. We know we're delusional when we're picking the Giants against. I think we're going to have a better offensive performance, but we lose the game. But nonetheless, I'm going to pick the Giants, because you never know what happens in a game like that, especially with the team going to be juiced up. The crowd's going to be full throat, because now they got what they want, and let's hope he can deliver. I love watching him and Scatterboo. I can't wait to watch him and Malik Neighbors and Scatterboo all grow together. It's going to be fun to watch. And the offensive line, as we build it together, it's good enough for now. It'll get better as we go and as we get pieces. But the tackles are pretty good. The interior is suspect, but we'll fix that as we go. Moving right along to the next game on the docket, it is the Commanders versus the Atlanta Falcons. Here, I am going to go in this game. I'm going to take the Commanders because of what I saw and what I think the Falcons are. I think they're reeling right now. Apparently, there's rumors that Raheem Morris can be fired. I don't know how you could do that after 2 years, but then again, here it is. But the Commanders play 1 o'clock. They play the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, but I think they make a statement and they go out and they beat this team and they end up being 3-1 heading into their game against the Chargers. I'm picking the Commanders. I don't think they need Jaden Daniels for this game. So you know, if I'm if I'm the Dan Quinn, I let him sit out the next couple games because the next couple games are the Atlanta Falcons. You have the Chargers game. I definitely probably wouldn't want to put him back in there with that defense. And then the Bears game, and then you play the Cowboys October 19th. So mid-October probably will be a game I would want to get him back in if he's healthy. At that point to play that Cowboy team and kind of get a couple wins back on your belt. And then of course you play Kansas City, Seattle, and a few other teams. So I think for this game, I think Marcus Mariota will be able to do what he needs to do. Plus, we forget that Marcus Mariota was with Atlanta, and he got cut and benched for the Riddler. I forget what his first name is, but Desmond Riddler. He got benched for that guy. And yeah, he wasn't happy about it. So if I'm Marcus Mariota and I get the start this week, I'm going to show Atlanta, hey, maybe you should have kept me. And if I'm Dan Quinn, I don't trust Michael Penix against the Dan Quinn defense, even if it is somewhat suspect. He's going to pull out all the stops and try to make this kid kind of, one-dimensional. I think they're going to stop the run, which they need, but the Atlanta Falcons can't seem to get out of their own way. And I don't see any help coming. They cut their kicker, who's now with the Giants. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm going with the Commanders. Zion, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like the Commanders look like a good team, and I would pick them, but I do have a problem with the quarterback. I get it. Marcus Mariota had a great game, but as a fellow Hawaiian, I hate doing this, but like he does show me it consistently, Marcus Mariota. And I just kind of feel like the Falcons got embarrassed against the Panthers. Michael Penix had one of the best performances of his career and has this competitive spirit. We've seen it at Washington. I don't think he's going to go in there and he's going to do it again. Now, Dan Quinn, defense, that's going to be tough, but I think the Falcons and Raheem is going to show the nation that, hey, we still have Bijan Robinson. What I duly agree, outside of King Henry and Berkeley, is right up there. As soon as those guys retire, it is Bijan Robinson's league. So that being said, utilize Bijan Robinson, utilize Jake London, overwhelm them with Pitts. They have fucking playmakers for days. And I think Raheem Morris is going to get his defense right too. And when you think of him as a head coach, yes, he struggled recently. I think they shouldn't fire him anytime soon because I think he still has a lot to bring to the table. And as the Falcons, as a shitty organization, you guys can't continue to do this because that's what shitty organizations do. I think Raheem Morris could be possibly the fixer there. You just got to give this guy a chance. I think Raheem Morris comes in here, makes it a competitive matchup, and gets the victory on Sunday.
Well, good shit. Next game, another 1 o'clock game. All these games are at 1 o'clock -1. It's kind of interesting. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's interesting nonetheless. Eagles headed down to Tampa Bay off of an emotional win against the LA Rams, and an emotional win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Jets. Baker Mayfield a little banged up. Obviously, Mike Evans is not going to be there. However, the Eagles never do well in Tampa Bay. So, with that being said, I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game to I guess would be upset. I don't know how it could be an upset when both teams are 3-0, but I will take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I think Baker Mayfield and that team we need to, after if they beat the Eagles, they're going to start to want to say, put some respect on my name. And we'll see if they can slay the beast that is the Eagles, who, didn't play that well the first half against the Rams and then turned it on the second half. I don't know if you can do that constantly and continue to win, especially as these teams get more tape on you and do it. So I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucs have just enough offense to beat the Eagles.
Great minds think alike. Great minds think alike. What up, Chris? I'm going to have to agree with you, though. I just think in Tampa, you got Baker Mayfield cooking, injured but still cooking. That whole revamp, with Tampa since Brady retired and bringing in Baker. Fans absolutely love the kid. Absolutely terrifying on offense, too. I think kind of going underrated. My wasn't even listed in my thoughts as a Super Bowl contender before the season, but I think they're the dark horse. I think no one's really looking at the Buccaneers on the Super Bowl, and the Buccaneers could sneak. I could see them going on a run in the playoffs if they continue to play good football. Obviously, and every single game been a close game. Never really rode out an opponent, a really dominated opponent, but they're doing what they need to do to escape the victories. And I think if the Eagles come in playing football like they played against the Rams in the first quarter, that's not going to get it done. Obviously they're going to try to get their weapons open. They're going to move the ball. It's going to be a closer game, but I'm gonna have a home team edging out on top. I would have picked the Eagles at home, but since it's at Tampa, I'm gonna pick the home team. So I'm gonna ride with Tampa.
And the last thing I'll say is they lose one receiver, possibly gain another, and Chris Godwin apparently is a full participant in practice today.
Bro.
So he'll be back. And with Mbuka, who is absolutely a stud
from Ohio State.
He is him, as they say, as the kids say these days. It's going to be
shout out to Oklahoma too. 11 receptions for 153 yards and doesn't have a touchdown yet, but shout out to Oklahoma.
So
we don't miss you, Oklahoma, but shout out to you.
But one thing I will say to wrap it up is that when you have a team like this, and you have a guy like Mbuka doing that, and they have a secondary in the Eagles who's young and trying to gel, this could be a monster game for him as they go. Plus, Sterling Shepard will be elevated, and Chris Godwin. They spread the ball around a lot, and I like Bucky Irving. Now, this gets us to the game.
Real fast. Can I just explain something real fast? The reason why we call him Oklahoma, guys, is when Sterling Shepard was coming out of Oklahoma, he was prized as the top receiver in the country, and he just never lived up to the hype with us. Shout out to him on top of it, though. Go right ahead, Adam.
Yes.
Oklahoma!
It's okay, Oklahoma. We miss you, and we could use you right now. You'd be the second best receiver on our team.
Anyway, you would be. Continue, Adam.
Getting to the game of the week, the Green Bay Packers against the Dallas Cowboys after an awful performance against the Chicago Bears. I am no way in hell picking the Cowboys. I don't think the Green Bay Packers are going to lose the way they did against the Cleveland Browns, who have a good defense and great special teams and did just enough on offense to not fuck it up. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to go in there, and I think they're going to embarrass the Cowboys. I think this game, where's this game? I think is it in Dallas, or is it in
it's in Dallas. It's in Dallas.
Probably in Dallas. They always put their game in
Sherrysburg.
So Jerry Jones can sit up there in his high perch. Jerry Jones is down there right now because the Cowboys are, they have the Green Bay Packers, and then they have the Jets coming up, right? So they have some winnable games here. But this game against Green Bay, that Jerry Jones is going to be needling Brian Schottenheimer. Say, find a way to win this. Of all the games to win, find a fucking way to win this one. Because you're going to, he's going to say, you better block number 11. I don't want to see him in the backfield anywhere near Dak Prescott. You better block him. But with that being said, the Cowboys have a couple linemen down. Their defense is a sieve. I think Jordan Love, who needs to have a bounce back game, this game is going to go off. I think you're going to see Golden go off, and they're going to see Dobbs if he goes off. I just think the Cowboys don't have the horses. This is a game that doesn't favor them. They need a game more like the Panthers that they play in 2 weeks, or like the Jets that they play next week. After that, they need games like that because those are the games that they can win. I don't think they're of the elite teams. They showed you last week that they were a sieve. We'll see if the Cowboys decide to put it together. I liked what Schottenheimer was doing, but after last week's game, losing by double digits, it's not good. After the good showing against the Eagles and the win against the Giants, I thought they would come out better. I think they're going to lose. What are your thoughts real quick on this game?
Yeah, I thought when this game was scheduled, when Michael Parsons was traded, I highlighted this game. I thought this game was going to be huge for Sunday Night Football. But yeah, it's not going to be no longer huge. I think Green Bay is going to mop the floor with these guys. Probably get a 14 17-point victory. So probably like 33 to like 17 Green Bay or something like that. I don't see Dallas defense stopping. I think it was it was now I want to say fluke, but I'll just say it was a tough performance for them out last week with the Browns. I think then the Browns played a great football game, and I think it's not going to be the same this week. I think the Michael Parsons is coming in there. This defense is coming in there. Not only fuck the Cowboys, it's just to show the nation like we're not who we were against the Browns. We're still who the nation thinks we could be. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm gonna say Green Bay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have gotten our picks. You've gotten our thoughts about Jackson Dart and his first NFL start. That leaves us with nothing but saying, any final thoughts before we go, Zion?
No, my only final thought is thank you for having me on. Thank you, chat, for staying active. You guys all showed up. I love that. And then if I'll always play that Dan Orlovsky or that Ryan Clark. If you guys ever need a friend of the show to pop on, you always can hit my line if I'm available. Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you navigating the show with us today. But as this concludes our show, the real deal NFC East Roundup. We're going to come back at you next week, talk about everything, including that Jackson Dart start. But he's Zion Zenith. I'm Adam Costas. This is the real deal NFC East Roundup. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants Fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants Fan. That's MACDA Giants Fan.